She only bought diapers, gas, and groceries. Nothing fancy, nothing reckless, just the cost of staying alive. And yet, 10 years later, she owes more than she borrowed. $8,700 in credit card debt, on $500 worth of spending. She never missed a payment, never defaulted. So why does she still owe more than she started with? This isn't about bad spending habits. It's about a system built to turn survival into profit. And it's not just her, it's 1 in 4 Americans trapped in revolving credit, paying for the past while borrowing from the future. They gave you credit, but what they really sold you was time at interest. Sarah grew up believing in the American dream. She wasn't rich, but she wasn't supposed to be. She believed that if you worked hard, paid your taxes, kept your head down, and didn't ask for much, the system would keep you afloat. She was wrong. The beginning, $1,000 to breathe. Her first credit card came at a campus event, a booth, a free tote bag, a clipboard, a smiling rep who told her it was just in case. Build your credit early, they said. It's part of being an adult. She didn't need it, not yet, but senior year brought a surprise co-pay, a broken laptop, a job interview 3 states away. 1 swipe turned into 2, and 2 turned into habit, working class in the gig age. After graduation, Sarah juggled jobs, barista from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., admin assistant from 3 to 7. Sometimes she picked up weekend shifts delivering groceries. Her total income? Just shy of $31,000 a year. Rent took half. Insurance and car payments took another chunk. There was no margin, no safety net. Every minor emergency was a financial crisis. A root canal, $1,300. New brakes, $600. Vet bill for her dog, $850. She didn't splurge. She didn't overspend. She survived on credit. My cards weren't for fun, she says. They were for breathing room. The numbers that don't go away. By 27, she had 5 credit cards. None maxed out, but none fully paid. Each month, she paid the minimum, sometimes $100, sometimes more when she could. She assumed that's how credit worked. You float, you pay, you shrink the balance. But the balances didn't shrink, they grew. At 30, she looked at her statements. Total charged since age 21, $5,200. Total repaid, $7,400. Balance still owed, $8,700. I cried when I saw that number, she tells us. I thought I was being responsible. I paid every month. I never skipped. But the math didn't care. Because the APR didn't care. Trapped in revolving credit. Sarah's interest rates ranged from 17.9% to 29.0%, and with minimum payments, most of what she paid wasn't touching the principal. It was paying the bank for the privilege of owing them money. I realized I wasn't paying debt, she says. I was just renting time. She tried everything. Balance transfer offers, with fine print so dense it might as well be code. Debt consolidation loans, with origination fees that negated the point. Financial literacy courses that told her to stop drinking lattes. But none of those options addressed the core problem. The system profits from her staying in debt, not getting out. Psychological toll, the shame of invisible chains. Sarah never told her family. She was doing okay on the surface. Her credit score was decent, thanks to her consistent payments. She lived modestly. She didn't look like someone drowning, but inside she felt constant shame. How do you explain to people that you owe $8,700 but never really used it for anything fun? She wasn't living large. She was just living expensively in a country that punishes the poor for trying. I felt like I was on a treadmill where the speed kept increasing, and the only way to stay on was to run with a knife in my chest. The moment of clarity. One night she stayed up doing the math. If she paid $150 a month, it would take 27 years to pay it off. By the time she was debt-free, her future child might already be in college. And that thought shattered her. "I realized I wasn't building a life," she said. "I was maintaining a system that was bleeding me for everything I had, and thanking me for being on time." That night, she cut up all but one card. She didn't close the accounts. It would hurt her credit score. She didn't go bankrupt. It would ruin her job prospects. She just stopped using the tools that had kept her afloat and underwater all at once. And yet, the debt is still there, still compounding, still winning, because in the credit system, even silence is monetized. They call it revolving credit. But it's more like quicksand. The average American has $6,101 in credit card debt. That number is rising, not because people are shopping for flat screens, but because they're swiping to survive. Medical bills, rent shortfalls, car repairs, things your grandparents used cash for, now come with APR and late fees. The modern American economy isn't run on income, it runs on interest. Let's break it down. Minimum payment progress. Your credit card statement says minimum due $130. Balance $4,900, APR 23.99%. You pay the $130. You feel responsible. You feel like you're shrinking the balance. But in reality, $98 of that went to interest. Only $32 touched the actual debt. That means next month, your new balance is $4,900 again. And you'll owe more interest on the same debt. Do this for 12 months, and you've paid $1,160, but your balance has barely moved. That's not progress, that's maintenance. Why it's designed that way. Banks are not in the business of helping you pay back fast. They're in the business of keeping you paying forever. They call it revolving credit because it revolves. But here's what it really means. You never touch the principal unless you pay big chunks. Interest is calculated daily. Miss one payment, your APR spikes. Pay late? Welcome to fees plus damage to credit score. And the irony, the longer you're on time, the more profitable you are to the lender. The APR scam. Let's say your APR is 24.99%. You think, okay, that's 24.9% a year. But no, it's compounded daily. That means every day your balance generates more balance. Interest gets charged on interest. You pay to owe, and if you miss a beat, they hit you with penalty APRs up to 39.9%, late fees up to $41, over-limit fees if you even sneeze wrong. It's not just a trap, it's a machine designed to keep you spinning while extracting rent from your future. Let's do the math. Suppose you owe $5,700 at 24.99% APR, and you make only minimum payments of 2% of balance per month. It'll take you 28 years, $12,300+ in total payments to pay off what you borrowed. That's more than double. For what? Groceries? Gas? A tire change? You didn't buy luxury. You bought time, and they're charging you for it, forever. But you need credit, right? They tell you to build your credit score. Keep cards open. Use them occasionally to stay active. So even when you try to stop using credit, you're still playing their game. Because the system punishes people who try to quit. Close accounts. Your score drops. Don't use cards. You're not credit active. Use them wisely. You're still feeding the interest machine. Debt isn't the bug. It's the feature. Credit card companies don't want people to default. They want people like Sarah. Always paying, never finishing. Always hopeful, never free. That's the dream customer. And that's why the system needs you in debt. Not too deep to sink, but just deep enough to never get out. Sarah once thought of herself as independent, strong, smart, self-made. But credit card debt doesn't just live in your wallet. It lives in your mind, in your sleep, in your relationships, in the words you don't say when someone asks, "How are you really doing?" Debt as identity. You don't notice it at first, the slow hum of anxiety, the way your heart races every time your phone buzzes. Is it a bill, a late notice, a payment due? You start scheduling your life around your statement dates. You measure your worth by your FICO score. You skip birthdays, avoid vacations, cancel plans. Why? Because you feel like you haven't earned joy, like your debt makes you less deserving. "I'm not broke," Sarah once said. "I'm just always behind." That sentence lived in her like a quiet cancer. Debt changes how you love. She stopped dating, not because she didn't want connection, but because she felt like a liability, not a partner. What if they ask about my credit? What if we move in together and I bring down their score? What if they want a future and I'm still paying for my past? Romance became a spreadsheet. Commitment became a calculation. "I wasn't scared of love," she said. "I was scared of being disqualified from it." The mental load of owing. People think debt is financial, but it's neurological. Chronic debt raises cortisol levels, increases risk of depression and anxiety by 33%, is linked to insomnia, digestive issues, even heart disease. Not because of what you owe, but because of what the system makes you believe about yourself, that you failed, that you're lazy, that you deserve this, even when all you did was try to survive a system designed to make you drown slowly. The invisible shame. Sarah's co-workers never knew. She dressed well. She smiled. She showed up early, stayed late, never complained, but behind that smile was someone terrified of a $600 car repair, because it would throw everything out of balance. Again. "I had a panic attack once when the fridge broke," she recalled. "Not because of the appliance, because of the cost of cold food." She didn't tell her mom, didn't want to worry her, didn't tell her friends, didn't want pity and that silence. It's what the system counts on. Shame is the best enforcer of quiet compliance. And then, the guilt. Guilt for using the card. Guilt for needing it. Guilt for not understanding interest. Guilt for saying yes to things she could barely afford. And worst of all, guilt for feeling like she failed in a game that no one taught her how to play. No bankruptcy, no crime, just slowly sinking. Sarah didn't end up homeless. She didn't default. She didn't file bankruptcy. And that's exactly the point. Because this system doesn't punish failure the way we expect. It punishes stability. It targets the responsible, the on-time payers, the silent strugglers, the ones who do everything right, except question the system. "I wasn't drowning," Sarah says. "I was treading water every single day, and they were charging me rent for the right to stay afloat." It's not brute force. It's precision. The debt trap doesn't crush you. It carves you open. If this system wanted to destroy you, it would, but that's not profitable. What it wants is to keep you alive, just enough to owe. Sustainable debt is the real business model. The banks could raise minimum payments. They could force people to pay faster. They could deny credit to those at risk. But why would they? If you pay it all off, they lose. If you default, they lose. But if you keep paying minimums for years with no end in sight, they make a fortune. The perfect customer is not rich. The perfect customer is stuck. Stuck in a job that doesn't pay enough. Stuck in a lease they can't leave. Stuck in a cycle of bills that never stop. And credit cards, they're the duct tape holding it all together. It's calibrated, not chaotic. There's a reason minimum payments are set at 1-3% of your balance. It's not a kindness. It's an algorithm. It ensures you feel like you're paying, but you never really get ahead. And the interest keeps flowing, month after month, year after year. It's not a mistake. It's financial engineering. We want our customers to be successful, they say. Translation: we want our customers to never leave. Behavioral economics at work. Banks spend millions studying how people behave under pressure. They know you're more likely to pay a lower bill even if it stretches longer. You'll avoid calling to negotiate out of shame. You'll believe it's your fault, not the system's design. So they don't need force. They use friction, silence, shame, confusion. And it works. You don't need a cage when you've trained someone to hold the door closed themselves. They don't need to raise the interest. Just let inflation do the work. Incomes stagnate, living costs rise, but minimums stay the same. So while you feel stable, nothing's changed, the burden actually increases. Your card isn't helping you. It's just slowing your collapse while charging you for it. Personal responsibility versus structural trap. The narrative is always the same. You borrowed it, pay it back. You live beyond your means. You just need more discipline. But that narrative ignores stagnant wages, predatory APRs, medical debt, job instability, housing inflation. And above all, it ignores that the system is structured so that doing the right thing means never getting free. A scalpel wounds. Quietly, this isn't a baseball bat. It's a scalpel. You don't bleed out. You bleed slow. One swipe at the grocery store, one car repair, one late fee, one missed raise at work. And just like that, you're no longer building a life. You're maintaining debt. I didn't realize how trapped I was, Sarah said, until I looked back and saw I hadn't moved in 5 years, just rotated in place. You were never the target, you were the product. Think about it. Why do banks market cards so heavily on college campuses? Why do they offer cashback and rewards that keep you spending? Why do they raise your limit the moment you show signs of struggle? Because they're not betting on your success, they're betting on your need. You don't get trapped by accident. You get trapped because someone planned it that way. If you're too tired to fight, you're easier to control. Sarah wasn't lazy. She was exhausted. And that's exactly what the system counts on, because when you're tired, you stop asking questions. When you're tired, you settle for less. When you're tired, you keep paying, not because you trust them, but because you don't have the energy to find another way. Debt isn't just financial, it's political. Let's talk scale. Total U.S. credit card debt, over $1.3 trillion, average interest rate, 24.37%. Who profits? Not the barista, not the single mom, not the struggling grad student, but the banks, the fintech giants, the lawmakers they lobby. These aren't accidental byproducts. They're features of a machine that feeds on predictable pain. Debt isn't just tolerated, it's engineered. Exhaustion is a strategy. Here's how it works. You're underpaid, wages stagnate. You work more hours to make ends meet. You fall behind. Emergencies hit. You swipe the card. Now you owe, and the interest kicks in. You work harder to pay it down, but your balance barely moves, so you work even more. Burnout creeps in, and now you're tired, broke, grateful just to stay afloat, and far too exhausted to rebel. Debt keeps you quiet. A tired worker doesn't strike. A tired student doesn't march. A tired parent doesn't protest. When your mind is consumed by due dates, you stop thinking about justice. When your heart is weighed down by shame, you stop believing you deserve better. Control doesn't always look like a cop with a baton. Sometimes it looks like a $48 minimum payment that keeps you too tired to dream. The credit economy needs you numb. Why do employers run credit checks for hiring? Why do landlords check FICO scores for apartments? Why does your ability to live depend on how well you manage debt? Because that's how control scales. You're not just being tracked financially. You're being sorted, scored, and filtered by algorithms that don't know your name. And when you're scared of losing access, you comply You nod. You don't ask for more. All by design. They tell you you just need to budget better. But they know rent outpaces income. Healthcare is unaffordable. Education costs more than cars. So when you fail to keep up, they don't fix the system. They sell you more credit, new cards, new loans, more rope, more noose. Freedom in America has become the freedom to borrow, and the prison comes after the swipe. Fatigue il profit. Tired workers don't unionize. Tired parents don't campaign. Tired debtors don't vote. They grind. They cope. They self-blame. If I work harder, maybe I'll get out. And every time you say that, someone else buys a second home off your interest. And still, we blame ourselves. Sarah once said, "I thought I was bad with money. Turns out the system was just built to break me slowly." She's not alone. Millions walk that same path, not because they failed, but because they trusted a system that depends on them being too tired to resist it. A life measured by dreams, not debt. Sarah still works, still lives modestly, still carries a balance. But something changed. Not her income, not her APR, her awareness. She realized that the system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as intended. Just not for her. Awakening isn't loud. It's personal. It starts small. You stop blaming yourself. You stop thinking your worth is tied to your FICO score. You stop seeing debt as a moral failure and start seeing it as a market strategy. And then something happens. You start asking questions. Why is this normal? Who benefits from my exhaustion? What would life look like if I wasn't constantly owing someone? What is freedom, really? They told us freedom was choice, but most of our choices came with interest. Swipe to eat, swipe to get home, swipe to go to school, swipe to survive. If you can't say no to the debt, it wasn't a choice. It was a deal made under pressure. And freedom, real freedom, is the ability to say no without fear. What it could be. Freedom should mean not fearing your mailbox, not scheduling your joy around due dates, not calculating whether you can afford to say yes to dinner, not feeling ashamed for needing help in a rigged economy. Freedom should mean breathing without owing, sleeping without interest, living without the math. Why this story matters. Sarah's not a symbol. She's not a warning. She's real. Like you, like me, like millions, struggling not because they failed, but because they played by the rules in a game built to trap them. And the moment we stop blaming ourselves is the moment the system starts to shake. PowerLine Stories believes stories like Sarah's don't just deserve to be heard. They deserve to be understood. Not as isolated tragedies, but as evidence of a larger truth. You are not broken. The system is. The final question. So, if credit is survival, if exhaustion is normal, if owing forever is the plan, what kind of freedom is that? And more importantly, what kind of freedom do you want to build instead?